You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're swapping out scientists in Fab Facts.
We're in for a swinging time in the Randomiser.
and it's part 2 of our interview with 2 guests for you, too.
Oh, that means Justin and Lindsay are back for Pod 170, the Breakaway Day edition.
Of the Space 1999 podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello.
Hello. And you are?
Jamie Anderson. Who on earth is that?
Yes. Who on earth and on Altor is this? It's me, Richard James from TV's Space Precinct.
Better known as Dickie James sometimes.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Now,
true.
Richard, you said something a bit weird in that intro. You said the Space 1999 podcast. Why is that?
Well, that's true. I mean, ordinarily it would be the Gerry Anderson Podcast. We know that. It's the extraordinary weekly celebration of all things Terrorhawks, Thunderbirds, Space Precinct, UFO, Dick Spanner. I could go on. However,
the
day of release for Pod 170 is the 13th of September.
1990. I know, 2021. Yes.
Yeah. Which we all know is
Breakaway Day.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be a good idea just to rebrand us for the week as Space 1999 Podcast, although we're not going to be exclusively talking about Space 1999.
Well, you say that. I'm just looking ahead, and I'm just going to scribble out some bits from the news.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a look at some emails that some of the Podsterons have been sending in to podcast@gerryanderson.com, and I'm going to pick a few pertinent ones then.
I love pertinent ones. Well,
yes.
So I've just scribbled out some of the news so that we may focus entirely on Space 1999 stuff.
Ooh,
but look,
nice.
Normally we talk about all things Gerry Anderson, and we will today, but we are going to be a little bit focused on Space 1999 because it's a very special day, and it's quite nice that the podcast has fallen on this day. We should also say that over there, sitting in the corner with a load of replica planets. I know what he's doing.
What is he doing?
Chris has got one of those spinny planety things. You know the ones I mean? What's that called? Where you've got a little...
What? A little planetarium thing? A little,
we'll remember the name by the end of the podcast. And he's setting up a small explosive charge on the moon part to obviously ceremonially blow it out of Earth's orbit. Chris, be careful with pyrotechnics. I know you're not a pyro expert.
Well, I'm glad to see he's wearing his safety goggles, though.
Yes, they're very fetching they are too, actually.
They are.
Now, you, Podsteron, that's you because you're listening to this. You're now officially a Podsteron, whether it's your first or your 170th
whether you like it or not.
Podcast. You're here to hear about Gerry Anderson stuff. So, Richard, what can they expect from this Space 1990 flavoured Gerry Anderson podcast?
Well, I thought we'd serve them all the usual dishes that they've come to expect, maybe with a little Space 1999 flavour. So we'll be breaking away at various points throughout the podcast.
Nice.
To hear from our wonderful Podsterons who've been emailing us, as I said, and they've been tweeting us as well, hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and tagging me, Richard N. James, him over there, I'm Jamie Anderson, and him over there, he's just lighting a match. No, Chris, put that down. Don't play with the fire until you're ready for it.
Not yet.
That's Chris Dalek as well. We've also got the second part of Jamie's interview coming up, which started last week.
It did.
And that was with...
Justin and Lindsay Lee.
I knew that. I knew Justin and Lindsay Lee. Of course, they're back for part 2 of their interview. We've got the Randomiser a little later on. That's Chris Dale's look at a random episode from a Gerry Anderson series. Wouldn't it be wonderful if it was from Space 1999? But we just don't know because it's random.
It's random.
It's very much
so we won't
random.
Know.
It is
we
random.
Can't know.
We don't know. That's right. And I think we've got some Gerry Anderson news.
Well, now it's just going to be Space 1999 news.
Hey. Yes, but to kick us off in style, perhaps it's time that we just let ourselves down gently and resigned ourselves to the fact that it's Fab Fact.
Yes!
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Okay, now I've got a bonus prefab fact for all of you lovely Podsterons out there, and that is that Richard James has been recently gifted some new licorice sweets. Can you tell me what they are and why they're so special? I'm quite serious that I want to know this because you mentioned them before we started recording.
Yeah, I can't tell you what they are because I think they're Swedish and I can't actually remember what they're called. Oh, but Jamie, they're like boiled licorice sweets, but when you crack them open, there's a kind of a liquidy, pasty kind of licorice thing going on in there. And I've had 7 today already. Yeah.
I'm salivating.
Yeah, me too, just thinking about it.
Anyway, well, that brings us to the end of this week's Licorice Fact. No. Obviously, we will have a Gerry Anderson one, but I'm quite thrilled by your licorice sweets. Please save me one. Anyway, what normally happens with Fab Facts is we don't talk about Richard's licorice sweets, but instead we have a Fab Fact, because I've got a book of Fab Facts. I'll flick through it at a random point. Richard will shout, Fab, I almost forgot what happens. I'll stop flicking, and then I will read a fact from that page.
Yes.
Now, Richard,
that's it.
I want you to concentrate very hard
right,
and shout Fab when you think I might be in a Space 1999 related era of the book. So that's going to be
what are we talking?
About
70
3/5 of the way through, I reckon.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, all right.
It's a bit of a setup, but let's see if we go. Here we go with the flicking. Fab! I may have paused the flicking lightly there, but look, how convenient. We've landed in the 1970s, right in the middle.
I did it. It was all that straining.
You are a genius of Fab Facts. Yeah. So, ladies and gents, boys and girls, here's a Space 1999 fact for you.
Bring it on.
Newcomers to Space 1999 who have enjoyed all 24 episodes of the first season have traditionally been rather flummoxed when starting the second season and been confronted by what to a certain extent, is a vastly different series from the one they were used to. We've come across this many, many times, and there are very few people who favour Series 2 over 1, but there we go.
But they're out there.
They absolutely. Viewers of Year 2 may have many questions, but the main question after what the flipping flip has happened here, change flipping flip for whatever expletives you wish, is... where did Victor Bergman disappear to?
Yes!
Now, I love Victor in Series 1, so yes, I was one of those people asking that very same question. Now, it's well documented that the show was drastically overhauled for its second season under the stewardship of new American producer Fred Freiberger, known as the series killer, I believe, by many. No, not by me. Anyway, Fred decided to change many familiar elements and characters, dropping them, in fact, including Paul Morrow, and Tanya Alexander, and David Carno. Just got rid of them. But what you may not know is that Barry Morse and Victor Bergman were initially not among the casualties. The plan was originally to keep him around for the second season because everyone loves Victor Bergman, don't they? I mean, I do. And the cast and crew loved Barry Morse. I bet he was a lovely man. Sad not to have met him, actually. Everyone loved him, that is, except for Fred Freiberger, who wasn't a big fan of the character and felt that the show's professor character should be a 23-year-old kiddie with a beard.
Right.
It's an interesting idea, isn't it?
That old Freiberger magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tried. This was part of his approach to overhauling the characters for the second year. We've got to make them more dynamic, without necessarily explaining what that actually meant.
Yeah.
Anyway, before the second season had even been announced to the press, negotiations were being carried out between the Space 1999 production office and Barry Morse's agent over a couple of weeks in December 1975. But unfortunately, as is probably obvious if you've seen it, the second season had a significantly lower budget than the first.
Yes.
Which is a bit tough. We have to be fair and say that since the first season was reported to be the most expensive production ever seen on television up to that point, the second season probably still had a budget that was absolutely dwarfed, that would have absolutely dwarfed most other shows at the time.
Yes, true.
It was just no longer as big as it had been. The terms initially put to Morse's agent would have seen him take more than a 1/3 pay cut. Ouch. And also lose his transport to and from Pinewood Studios. Barry understandably rejected that offer, then made a counter proposal of his own that was also rejected by the production office. Everything then went very, very quiet for about a week as Barry tried and failed to contact Dad directly. Until finally he phoned his agent to tell them to accept the original offer. But then was simply told, other plans have been made. And that was that. Victor Bergman was no more.
Curses.
Sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Regardless, 2 scripts for the upcoming second season would still mention Bergman, but unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, those mentions would be cut before they could be filmed. The first mention was in the season premiere of The Metamorph, in which Tony lamented the fact that Victor had suffocated in a faulty spacesuit. Nice. And the second was in Catacombs of the Moon, in which Helen Russell and Ben Vincent were trying to repair the late Victor's heart to be donated to Pamela Stevenson, obviously. Because he had a mechanical heart in the story, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, 1999 fans, what would you have preferred? Having Victor disappear without explanation between seasons as we got, or the initial plan of explaining that he died between seasons? I mean, it's pretty miserable and pretty rubbish either way, but at least what we got leaves a little bit of hope that he might have been alive and well somewhere else. Maybe he disappeared and went off to live on a different planet. Maybe he got stranded there and was happy. There's some lovely ideas you could have had.
That's got me thinking, yeah.
Now, we're not sure what the other plans have been made thing referred to, other than, this stupid Victor's far too old for our hip, edgy, youthful, dynamic new series. I know, come on, rubbish. And it is kind of hard to imagine Victor fitting into the world of Space 1999 Year 2. But I do think we missed something in not having some kind of meeting between Victor and Maya. Barry and Catherine Schell had worked together on a previous ITC action show, The Adventurer, and had a really lovely rapport, but sadly, we'd never get to see the meeting of Moonbase Alpha's 2 great scientific minds.
What a shame. Yes, it's true.
So there you go. Victor Bergman wasn't meant to be axed, and wasn't meant to disappear without explanation. It's just how things went, unfortunately. But Barry himself did have an explanation for Victor's disappearance.
Right.
That he'd fallen off the back of the moon.
Right, okay.
As you do.
That's unfortunate. Yeah.
He could have come up with a better thing than that, couldn't he? Come on.
Slightly more dramatic would have been nice, wouldn't it?
Well, Podsterons, what do you think happened to Victor Bergman between seasons? Do you, if you had to put an explanation there, would you have preferred a death, a disappearance, something mysterious, or otherwise? We'd love to hear your thoughts. podcast@gerryanderson.com for emails. Do let us know.
Yeah, what a shame. And actually, one of the most popular characters, surely.
Understandably.
He'd be the one you would want to see back for a second series.
Well, I always say that he, to me, is the Doctor Who of Space 1999, and it's just a lovely, reassuring presence and so characterful. But, it's not the only Gerry Anderson show where that's happened, is it, Richard James?
Well, what do you mean? What was there a second series of Space Precinct I don't know about?
No, I'm talking about Beazle disappearing after the first few episodes.
Well, I've done series of specifically kids' TV stuff that has been, we've returned to do more series without some members of the original cast. It's always a relief when you get the email from your agent saying, they're going again, darling, and they loved you.
Yes.
That's always a relief.
And they want to give you a 33% pay cut.
Yes. Yeah. It's people perhaps might think that a second series equals more money. That's not always the case at all. Yeah, but a pay cut of a third. Oh.
And no car.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an insult, isn't it? Insult to injury.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, well,
gosh, there we are.
It is so, and it cannot be any other way. So we just lament the absence of Barry Morse in Year 2. But there you go, perfectly picked Fab Fact, Richard James. Well done for this Breakaway Day special edition of the Gerry Anderson Podcast and of Fab Facts. But that's the end of this week's
Bergman Fact.
I couldn't think of anything, but I'm happy for you to go with Bergman Fact.
Yeah, let's go with Bergman. I don't think we've had a Bergman Fact. We've certainly had facts about Bergman before, but
we have.
We've never called them.
I don't think we've had one where I've just laughed and not come up with anything. Though,
No. Now, you're listening, of course, to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Here we are at Pod 170, and they said it would never last. But don't forget, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can leave us a nice review and a rating to let us know how we're doing, and even copy and paste the link into all your social media profiles, so maybe your friends will listen too, and they might even enjoy enjoy it as much as you do. As much as these people do, certainly, because we, again, have had another bumper crop of emails in at podcast@gerryanderson.com. For example, now, here is a listener who didn't want me to reveal his name, but he says, hello, with Space 1999, why was the date of 13th of September chosen for the day that the moon broke away? From a listener whose birthday is on the 13th of September.
Oh, well, happy birthday, anonymous
happy
listener.
Birthday, unknown listener. Yeah. Any reason particularly that they chose that date?
Particularly just only because they wanted to celebrate the birthday of the anonymous listener. No, I don't know. It just sounds cool, doesn't it? You know, some dates sound... there may be a reason and I'm not aware, but it just sounds cool. The 13th of September. I mean, obviously 13's bad luck, isn't it? So you've got any month of the year you can choose there, the 13th of... But the 13th of September somehow sounds cool. If you know differently, Podsteron, do email in podcast@gerryanderson.com and I will happily be corrected because, as you well know from previous editions, sometimes I'm just an idiot. Oh, well, same thing.
Of course, I mean, they may have chosen 13th of September because I think there's one every year, isn't there? So perhaps that's why they picked it.
Rather than the 61st of February, which would have been weird.
Yeah. That's right. David J. Barry says, I've nearly caught up with the podcasts now, and one of the downsides of being so far behind is missing out on all the merch. I'm gutted to have missed last year's Porky the Butchery Boy t-shirt, but I hope that I'm not too late to submit a merch idea for this Halloween. I'd like a t-shirt with the face of Mr. Bumbledrop on the front and the legend in the torchy font on the back, yes, officer, the missing children used to play in my garden, but now they've all gone to live on the twinkling star.
Quite sinister.
Just get cracking on that. Yeah, keep keeping Anderson alive and growing. Kindest regards from David Barry.
Well, I've got some very sad news for you, David Barry. Yeah. Unfortunately, Torchy the Battery Boy is owned by Studio Canal, and we don't have a licensing deal with them. And even if we did, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't sign off on that an actual image of Mr. Bumbledrop. Now, the Porky was Porky from last year was a bit of a parody. So we took the risk there, but no Bumbledrop for you. But thank you for the very good suggestion.
But any plans for any sort of Halloween designs this year?
There's a very special Halloween thing coming up, which we'll be announcing maybe next week, I think. I mean, today's very much Breakaway Day and about the Space 1999 Technical Operations Manual, which we'll be talking about in the news. But yes, something terrifying and Halloweeny is coming.
Lovely. Now, Chris Yost got in touch. Hey, question for all three of you, he says. Commander Gorski was replaced, as far as I can work out, for either internal political reasons or because he refused to move ahead with the Metaprobe launch. How different do you think things would have turned out had he remained in command? Best as always, Chris Yost.
Over
to you.
Chris. I would ask Chris Dale to answer that question, but unfortunately he's too busy now strapping more French bangers onto the moon.
Yes. Careful with those bangers.
Yeah, it's the size of a ping pong ball. I'm quite worried that they're going to vaporize it. I mean, I don't think it would have made that much difference, would it? You just wouldn't have had, the overbearing Simmons there. Maybe it would have been a bit less stressful, or maybe Gorski would have gone to pieces. I don't know. Perhaps an alternate universe timeline thing from Big Finish Productions in a future date. Who knows?
There you go. Could happen. Chris Yost also includes a couple of PSs. PS, please save me a 1999 Christmas sweater. And PPS, Louise does a stellar job. Give her a raise. Cheers.
She does indeed. Well done, Louise. She's very good at answering everyone's questions and keeping everyone happy and looking after people when there are problems, of which hopefully there are very few. But when there are, she's there to save the day. Thanks, Louise.
A couple more. Nigel got in touch. Hello, Richard and Jamie. I like the order there. Perfect, Nigel. He says, I've just listened to Space 1999 Breakaway a second time, and I'm still stunned. This is a totally superb creation, and I cannot get my head around the range of emotions I felt listening to it. When I first heard you were doing this, I was a little wary. Space 1999 is one of my all-time favourite shows, and I wasn't sure how an audio version with a new cast could work. But I needn't have worried. I was hooked within the first minute, and I have nothing but praise for the whole team. The cast capture perfectly the essence of the original characters while bringing out new aspects of each of them, and the sound design and effects are truly a joy. Just one slight issue. I'm so hungry for 40 more episodes. Thank you, Jamie and Nicholas Briggs. It's a genuine masterpiece. Kind regards from Nigel.
Well, no, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I can take almost no credit at all for all that. Nick did an amazing reimagining, great casting, great direction. Ian Meadows, amazing sound design, and great music from Benji Clifford. So, yeah, they did an amazing job. But, it's because Nick Briggs absolutely loves Space 1999, so he's obviously come from the right place. And there's things like the amped up Helena. I really love that character now. Yeah. Because... I don't know, it just feels like they needed that for a bit of balance, to have a bit of a headstrong character who's willing to, to call out nonsense. Which is why I'm here on the podcast.
Exactly. And finally, this is from Steve from the Podders Arms over on our Facebook group. He says, "Hi, Jamie and Richard." Oh, okay. He says, dropping you this mail to let you know that many from the Podders Arms are meeting IRL. Ooh. In brackets, he says, that's in real life to you, Richard. Yes, I know. He says, Penn has met Lauren, Stephen has met Jenny, and Jenny has met Stephen with a V. Also, I had the pleasure of meeting Doug, who is also meeting Paul soon, too. I don't think any of us would have met if it wasn't for your podcast and the weekly Zoom meets. It's fab that we can get together at last. P.S. There does seem to be a lot of Steves involved. If only there was a Gerry Anderson character with that name. All the best, Steve Zodiac. I mean, Steve from the Podders Arms. Yeah,
isn't
lovely.
That brilliant? Love the fact that we're bringing people together. Or in fact, we're not really doing it. We're maybe a catalyst or a starting point for it. But you're bringing yourselves together, and we love it. So
yes.
Please continue with that. There's something strange about the world of Gerry Anderson and names, Richard.
Is there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surrounded by Chris's, Tim's, Marcus's, Jamie's, Ben's and Richard's.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you?
There's almost no other names. It's so weird.
Right.
So please, could you all stop having the same names? That would be very helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's just not helpful at all, is it? Especially when they email in. It's very confusing.
Not one Virgil, though, would you believe?
Not yet, no, but are you out there? If you are a Virgil and you are a Gerry Anderson fan, email us at podcast@gerryanderson.com. Say hello, and I'll read it out next time.
Yeah, but you have to be a genuine Virgil. No messing around. Please.
Oh, yeah.
It's very serious.
Yeah, no middle names either.
No, okay. Richard James, would you like some very special Space 1999 themed news?
Oh, let's get to it.
Here comes the Space 1999 Gerry Anderson news. So, it's the Gerry Anderson / Space 1999 news.
Spacey, news.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Clear as mud. Now, we did have some other news, but actually I'm just going to go all Space 1999 for you, because the team here, by which really, I have to credit Chris Thompson and Andrew Clements, have been working incredibly hard for many months on the Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha Technical Operations Manual. Pre-order launch is today. That's the 13th of September at 5 p.m. UK time, which is 12 p.m. Eastern time in the US and 9 a.m. Pacific, I think. So hopefully everybody will be awake for it. It is an amazing book, has its origins in the original technical notebook from the 1970s, which was a Starlog release. David Hirsch was in charge of that, and in fact we're going to hear from David Hirsch shortly. I've got a special message from him, which is going to play out at the end of the news. It's an amazing book. There's 224 brand new illustrations showing cutaways of the interior of the Moonbase Alpha, all the vehicles, operational procedures, uniforms, patches, special locations, the history of the base, the origins of the Eagle, all the tech, including how your Comlock works and how the stun gun works and where they're stored.
Lovely.
Even where and how to go to the loo on Alpha. There's literally nothing you won't know. And it's presented as a book that would be given to Alphans as they were leaving Earth, so that they were completely familiar with everything on Moonbase Alpha. So... It's pre-order goes live at 5 p.m. today from the Gerry Anderson store. You can't get it anywhere else. Now, there is a standard edition, which is a 272-page hardback book, full colour, lavishly illustrated, beautiful thing. It's $34.99. Then there is a very special edition, which comes in a special flight case, obviously space-worthy, It includes a letter from the desk of from Commissioner Simmons, which is individually numbered and is your kind of certificate of authenticity. There is a radiation detector, obviously very important for going to the moon. Not that anything will possibly go wrong with radiation. No. There's a bottle of anti-radiation pills, which are actually mint, but don't tell anyone.
Great.
A travel tube map, an ID card, and obviously the book as well. There are only 311 of those worldwide. Now, they are not going to be for everyone. I completely understand that. So, you know, if you think maybe, then it's probably not for you. So, for this week only, that special edition is $149.99.
Right.
At the end of this week, it goes up to $199.99.
Oh,
it is a very special thing. So yeah, it's 50 quid off this week, and I would really love it for you to grab one if it's something that you would like. You think, it'd be a great Christmas present for me, or for some, not me, Jamie, but for you, you, the listener.
Well, not me,
or for
I see.
Or for a friend of yours. I'd love you to grab it now. Or a friend of yours, absolutely. For this week only, you will also get a special Conquer the Moon recruitment poster and an astronaut mission patch. If you pre-order this week. If you don't, then those pre-order incentives are gone forever. They will not be sold separately. That's it. They're gone. Never coming back. So actually, you're getting sort of 20 quid's worth of free extras this week only, as well as the discount on the special edition.
Yeah. Lovely.
So,
aren't we lucky?
It's not for you. That's fine, totally understand, but if you do want to grab it, please grab it this week. I would hate for you to miss out, and I really don't want you to be paying 50 quid over the odds, but it's a very special thing. The case has been completely bespokely created, or created just for us. It's in a lovely 1970s sci-fi kind of oatmeal cream colour with a Moonbase Alpha badge on the exterior of the case. You know, specially cut foam trays. Everything fits in there beautifully. They're going to be hand-packed just for you and hand-numbered on the letter. It's a lovely, lovely collector's item, which is why there are only 311 worldwide, obviously reflecting the number of Alphans. So,
I see.
If you'd like those, launch today, the 13th of September, 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're elsewhere in the world, sorry, my brain can't cope with any further time zones. You can get them from shop.gerryanderson.com, and you'll get those pre-order incentives, whether you get the standard or the special edition, this week only. But if you wait until after midnight or after 11:59 p.m. on the 19th, then those pre-order incentives are removed and the price of the special edition goes up to the full whack. Right. Anyway, look, David Hirsch is a friend of the podcast. We've heard from him before.
Yep.
He was one of the creators, in fact, the driving force and the main writer of the original technical notebook. And he wanted to tell us about the original notebook and what he thinks of the new one, his views there. So, as part of this special Space 1999 themed Gerry Anderson news, let's hand over for just a few minutes to the rather lovely David Hirsch.
Wow, I can't believe it's been 44 years, literally to the day, that we first wrote the official Alpha Moon-based technical notebook for Starlog magazine. We started over the summer of 77 to put this book out by Christmas 77. And Jeff Mandel and Anthony Fredrickson and I worked feverishly to try and put everything together. They literally, these two guys who have gone on to stellar careers as scenic and graphic artists in Hollywood on Star Trek, the movies and the TV shows, as well as other productions, they had to go off to college, and I had to pull in a college friend of mine, Dave McConnell, to help finish out a lot of drawings where we were constantly poring over 16 millimeter prints to find details on a lot of sets and props to make everything look really good. ITC in New York was gracious to allow me to stumble through a lot of their warehouse to look for any information they had. They had a lot of pre-production stuff that they used at the trade shows, so I thank Bob Mandel for that. But we had always hoped to do supplements to the book, so that's why we had done a loose leaf binding, and we limited ourselves to what we could do within that time frame. But unfortunately, the initial sales on the book were such that our publishers, Starlog, Kerry O'Quinn and Norman Jacobs, were always a little cautious about wanting to do the supplements. They would come to me periodically and say, okay, if we do a supplement this year, what would you do? And I had a lot of ideas planned out. I had Stephen Corbett, who was a friend of Martin Bauer, who had blueprinted all his spaceships, who was going to do a lot of the craft for the book. And we reuse, of course, Jeff's Eagle blueprint from Starlog number 7. But unfortunately, none of that happened. And it's taken 44 years now for there to finally be a supplement, as it were. But the new book is absolutely stunning. What I've seen so far that Chris Thompson and Andrew Clements have done has been absolutely brilliant. The design work, the presentation is just really first class stuff we could not have done all those years ago with the technology that was available. They were kind enough to bring in Paxton Young, who I had suggested to Jamie early on when the project was first proposed to me, who had done these incredible blueprints in Moonbase Alpha, which of course he had the luxury of years and years of studying the show and the sets and everything to work things out that we could never have done back then within our time frame. So you will find that this book is going to be just about everything that we had originally hoped to present to you, but now with the ability to do much more research than we could have ever done. It's an absolute brilliant presentation. I'm thrilled that we have these two wonderful scientific advisors writing about how to ground the show in reality, which is something that production designer Keith Wilson and special effects wizard Brian Johnson all tried to do with their designs. I've spoken to Chris Penfold over the last few years and learned how he and his writing partners, Johnny Byrne, Eddie DiLorenzo and such, had all strove to really make the show as realistic as possible. And I think the fact that you could see a lot of reality in this book is a testament to all this hard work that everyone tried to do. I mean, a lot of it's always been complained about the premise of the show being unbelievable. But as we all know, Gerry Anderson had his back against the wall when Aidan Mandel would not greenlight the show unless he could assure him that the show never would take place on Earth. So he said, well, I'll blow up Earth, which Aidan Mandel said, well, that's too scary. Blow up the moon instead. And there they had it. The moon was going to be isolated in outer space, and there was our show. So now all our writers and the designers had to say, let's try and make this look good. They didn't want cardboard sets. And we see this in these wonderful designs. And the show was absolutely believable to a lot of people. They even had Werner von Braun of NASA write them a letter about how he was impressed on how realistic the moon base looked, and would help inspire people to want to go further than the current Apollo program. And I think some people have been inspired by this. So we have, I think you're going to find this is going to be a book that you're going to be very proud to own. I'm certainly going to be proud to have been involved with this. I thank Jamie Anderson for approaching me about wanting to be involved with this and allowing them to take what we had done all those years ago and open up this whole universe now to all the fans who, over the years, who have watched the show so often now with home video. You're not going to be able to fool them. You have to show that we care about the show, and I think Chris and Andrew have done a spectacular job in really making everything look great. So I'm proud to have been associated with this book, and I think you're going to be proud to own it.
Thank you so much, David. Great to have your endorsement, I suppose.
A ringing endorsement.
And also great to have him involved from day one on this project, making sure that it kind of fulfilled all the potential of the original technical notebook in this new guise. So there you go. There is other stuff going on in the Gerry Anderson universe, but because this is Breakaway Day and because we've had so much about this technical operations manual, I think we should probably leave it for this week. What do you think?
I think that's fair enough.
Okay, fine. Well then, that's the end of this week's very special Space 1999 themed Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news. Very special Space 1999 themed news. Yeah. Well,
nice
always
try.
leave them wanting more, Jamie. So I think that's sensible and
Yeah,
fair.
we'll have
just
more,
have the one item.
More cool news next week.
Of course.
We've got stuff coming up for Thunderbirds Day, some amazing limited edition prints and various other things. But we'll come to that next week on the 20th of September.
Now, I think I might have stumbled across something. You mentioned there in the book that it even tells you where you can go to the loo on Moonbase Alpha.
Absolutely. Crucial information, I'd say.
Maybe we've just discovered what actually happened to Victor Bergman between seasons 1 and 2.
Didn't read that section and got locked in there, and that was that.
Oh, dear. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Now, if you're on Facebook, please do consider joining our Facebook group. It's a lovely band of enthusiastic and friendly individuals who will make you feel good about your love for all things Anderson. Just head on over to facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, answer a few questions, we'll let you in, and you can join in the fun. For example, over the last week or so, Martin Smith has been posting. He says, hi, my fellow Podsterons. I have just watched an episode of The Avengers entitled The Positive Negative Man. I couldn't help thinking that the makeup used for the electrically charged man was very similar to that used for the aliens in UFO. Is there a connection here? What do you think? I must admit, I'm not familiar with that.
Neither am I, so I couldn't possibly comment. But again, when Chris has finished destroying this moon on his little model...
We'll get him to look into that.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Perkins has been up your neck of the woods, Jamie.
Oh, is it?
Yes, he posted in Aberdiffy today.
Okay. How are you
He
spelling
says, I'm
that?
watching... Yeah, I don't know whether it's somewhere in Wales, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Can't be too far from me. He says, I'm watching a rescue at sea by the RNLI as they took a fire crew out to deal with a fire on a boat. I've always supported them. If ever I've done any fundraising, ever since, as a child, I learned that they were all unpaid volunteers, a bit like the Tracy brothers. And Mark says, who can watch something like this and not hear the Thunderbirds theme? It's true, isn't it?
True.
And he posted a few pictures and a video there. Chris Oliver shared a discovery. This was fascinating. I watched this unfold a couple of days ago. He posted a picture of some master tapes and commented, I found this in the loft this evening after 30 years. Barry Gray's original master tapes that APC thought were lost. I had them packed properly some years ago, simply forgotten about them. Ralph Titterton, who we know, of course, said, well, looking at the content list image, this looks like an electro effects reel. Douglas commented, but the other one might be the missing music from this episode, to which Chris responded, well, I have to declare I'm not really a fan, although I watched and enjoyed as a kid. That's probably sacrilege. But anyway, moves are now afoot to identify just what Chris has there, but it all unfolded live on our Facebook group.
That's
and it was really interesting. Yeah. But finally, for now, my favourite comment ever, I think, in the group came from Glenn Mason this week, who simply posted, I love this podcast.
Oh, thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, that's all. But in the meantime, Steve Rogers has been continuing his polls, recently focusing on hypothetical spin-offs that the Podsterons would most like to see, which gave me an idea, Jamie.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I wondered, which of these special Quickfire 5 spin-offs would you most like to see?
Thought I got away with it.
Right, are you ready for these? Here's a set of 10 potential Gerry Anderson spin-offs. Number 1, Thunderbirds of a Feather or Drop the Dead Zuni.
Thunderbirds of a Feather.
And number 2, Men Behaving Podly or Only Phones and Horses.
Oh, Men Behaving Podly, absolutely.
Number 3, The XL Fively Lads or The Thin Captain Blue Line.
Thin Captain Blue Line.
Number 4, The Bishop of Diddley or It Ain't Half Hood Mum.
Oh, come on, it ain't half hood, Mum. That's a great...
And finally, number 5, Last of the Straker Wine or Some Myers Do Have 'Em.
Last of the Straker Wine.
Oh, well, there we go. That's interesting because I think Maya was considered for a while for her own
spin-off. Yes, she was.
There we go.
See, she's already had a moment to possibly shine that wasn't actually going to happen. But there's some great suggestions there, and not the direction I was expecting it to go at all.
Well, there you go. There's this week's Quickfire 5.
Thank you so much.
Now, I've got some tweets and some YouTube comments coming a little later on.
Do we? Well, before we get to those, we should probably hear from Justin and Lindsay. Now, Chris has passed me a note. He just popped over and said the model of the solar system is called an orrery.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
An orrery.
Thank you.
Chris is basically attaching pyrotechnics to his orrery in honour of Breakaway Day.
So it's an honorary orrery.
Honorary orrery in honour of breakaway day. Yeah. Anyway,
I see. Lovely.
Let's get away from Chris's orrery and instead focus on the lovely Justin and Lindsay Lee, puppeteers, writers, creators, voice artists, model makers, very, very talented people and lovely humans based in Canada. And yes, it's the second part of my chat with them. Normally, we have 2-parters, sometimes 3-parters, but this is a 4-parter. So
I know.
The second part of 4, let's hand over to the lovely Justin and Lindsay Lee. I mean, why do you think that doc has resonated so much? Because it has kind of recaptured people's imaginations, and it continues to roll out on Sky Arts over here from time to time, and it's certainly worthy of that praise. But why did it connect with people so much?
Yeah, I mean, I think because at the end of the day, and this is coming. So I have this perspective on it because this was all part of my introduction to Thunderbirds and to the world of Gerry Anderson. There's such a human story behind it. It's, and I do like, how Stephen and Andrew and Justin framed the story. It's about these underdogs, right? Who just kind of start doing something because they want to, because they think it's cool. And then it grows and it develops and innovation happens in that process. And I think that's something that people really relate to. It's you could feel the passion behind the things that the people were doing. And you really got a sense that, especially at the beginning when they were just starting out, that everybody was just doing it because it was fun.
Yeah, for the love of it.
And I think that is just that's a thing I think people really connect with any sort of art. Mm-hmm. When you really feel like the creators and the people making it are enjoying it.
Our friend Dave Elliott, who directed, I mean, people probably know his name because he directed, I guess, up until Thunderbirds. He said his happiest time was on Four Feather Falls because they were all pitching together to make hay bales, and his very pregnant wife was there making hay bales for the Western set and stuff. Like, yeah, right. It was everyone just doing it for the love of it and having and they would. And as your dad says, I think he was in the documentary. It's part of the interview where your dad, Gerry Anderson, says, "I'm sorry, I don't have to tell you your dad's name." He says,
for clarity for listeners, though, it's very thoughtful of you.
He says like we'd work like until midnight and then start early the next morning, and like that's kind of truthfully, because Lindsay and I have and we'll hopefully we'll talk about this, like the shows that we're making now. Yeah, we've obviously done that, like because we're now in that kind of. I don't think we can't make a direct and analog, and I wouldn't make a direct analog, but I think like we are in our kind of Four Feather Fallsy kind of, as in like. Yeah. We have a small amount of money right now to make a small show with a small crew, and everybody threw in the kitchen sink and everything else to make it. So like that kind of working till midnight and waking up and starting early the next morning is so relatable because,
And I think especially, if you are a viewer who is familiar with the final product, it is always fun to see how the sausage was made. Yeah. And then when you discover that the sausage was made with love and passion, and oh gosh, this is sounding so phallic, and I don't mean it. I don't mean
that. Keep going, Lindsay. Keep going.
Can it be something else besides the sausage?
Okay, the table. I don't know. Yeah, that's what we're
the omelet.
An omelet. Yeah. All the ingredients of that omelet were just things that I think that people relate to, and I think when it comes to working, I think everybody wants a job where you just enjoy what you do. You go into work every day and you want to stay till 2 a.m. and because you're just enjoying it so much. And I think that is such a relatable part of that story. Mm-hmm. And I think especially like for me watching it, like I wasn't at the time a fan of this stuff because I wasn't familiar. But I think now having been a fan for all these years and meeting other fans, and everybody is just so fascinated with especially things like puppets and miniatures. It's like they look at it and they go, how was that made? Yeah. The shot is just so beautiful and so intricate. How did they do it? So I think it was a combination of all those things that just makes people want to watch this documentary over and over.
You could tell, like, even into the Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, and there were people on that crew. They wanted to make those shows the best they could possibly be, and you can see that. Like they could have phoned it in, but they didn't. Like there's a big landscape shot, and Professor McLean's cars driving through this English countryside. And I think some of that even obviously spilled into, like, you know, I'm sure a lot of listeners know what Thomas the Tank Engine is, right? Thomas and Friends. And obviously some people like David Mitton, who worked on Thomas, came from working with your dad. And they brought that sensibility so that even into the, I guess it was the 80s, you'd watch something like Thomas, which was made for little kids, and it's got these same kind of sweeping, you know, beautiful sunset shot, you know, same thing with like Tugs that they also did, you know. So all these kinds of just putting that extra bit of heart into it, which spoke so much to us, right? Like just seeing this stuff.
Definitely. And I think people have a greater fascination with, I think people have some level of familiarity with how live action filmmaking is done to a degree. You know, it's like you put a camera in front of a human and there the human performs. Yeah. But I think when you see something like a landscape that looks so real, but at the same time, you know, it's not. I think there's that extra level of how did they do it that draws people in. I mean, we actually, just going to plug this, we just visited, there's an exhibit in Toronto called Little Canada, which is a miniaturized version of currently a bunch of different Canadian cities.
It just opened.
It just opened. They're expanding to do the whole country. But it is like, when you go in, you're just immediately going, wow, this looks like something I know, but it's in miniature.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is definitely part of the fascination. I mean, I would say that kind of thing of enthusiasm and of the teams on the original shows, from the bits I saw when you were making FIS, you could see in the crew, the whole team, if you guys at the time. So there's a kind of a lovely echo there.
Yeah, it's true, and no, absolutely. I think that we kind of felt like we were, and we shot. In case people don't know, we filmed in Supermarionation at Bray, which is where your dad made Terrahawks. In fact, we were in one of the same buildings.
Yeah. And
there were bits of your dad's stuff just around. Like, I'm not even kidding, like, because they would probably just walk out and finish their whatever. So there was on the table a little helmet from Space Police, the pilot, that with Shane Rimmer. It was like the helmet that the female officer, I can't remember.
Catherine Chevalier wore.
Yeah. So it wasn't the full-sized one; it was the puppet-sized one. So that was on the table. At one point, Lee Took, who was working with us. He was kind of, I guess he managed that building at the time, right? He had an office in there. So he just walked out, and he had like the painting of the that was used for the Calling Elvis Tracy Lounge. Like he just brought it out. He was like, oh, here it is. You know, there was just little bits of kind of history just in this building. It was like, you know, so when you see the beginning of FIS and you see those shots, that kind of foggy looking factory with Lady Penelope and the Thunderbird 1 chair and all this kind of stuff, and that kind of, you know, the dirt on the table, all that was kind of there. It was we didn't like have to put on that too much. It was kind of already there. So that was a really neat kind of, as you said, like we were kind of those people, the next generation, I guess, of people doing this. And then we were in a place where, you know, your dad had been making a show with a lot of those people, like Christine and Bob Bell and Alan Patillo. There's a lot of people that worked on Terrahawks and worked on Des Saunders, all those people. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so also ghosts in there a bit.
Yeah, I want to ask you, because like I know this is an interview with us, but like when you watched Thunderbirds, and I remember you told me the story that you didn't understand that the fact that your dad's name, you thought that your dad had recorded them off TV, and that was why you were told.
Well, very much like you said, when you're a kid, you don't appreciate what production means, what TV. What's behind it? It's just there. It just exists.
Yeah.
So I had absolutely no clue, and it's only kind of when they were making adverts and stuff, and that when they were probably doing like was it a Stingray Weetabix advert in the early 90s? Maybe that kind of era. I really kind of started to connect what was what.
But didn't you say that your mom said to you, "Oh, your dad made these," and you totally thought, "Oh, he put the tape in the VCR and recorded it."
Oh, that's so cute.
And that he'd made the case and the inserts. That's what I thought. Yes, thank you for pointing out what a moronic child I was, Justin. That's
you were like 3 years old, right? And that's
3 or 4.
No, he was 16.
No, he was 16 years old. Like Lindsay. That's so adorable. And I just want to know, like, I know this is about us, but like, what did you think? What was your first impression do you remember when you watched Thunderbirds for the first time or any of those shows? Like, what your brain, what you thought of it?
Well, so weirdly, I was talking about this for an interview the other day, and I think the first one I had was a VHS of Attack of the Alligators.
Oh, it's quite an episode to start with. You don't still have it. Are you getting up because you're going to get it? Are you going to show us that you... Sorry. Oh, my God.
So I think that's not actually the VHS, but it's the same VHS.
It's the same issued version, just not the same one.
It's volume 13, the Channel 5 video of Duchess Assignment and Attack of the Alligators.
Jamie's holding up on the video the Channel 5 VHS and with the hand-drawn illustration.
It's got quite the hand-drawn alligator.
Yeah.
But I think I remember only rewinding it halfway so I could rewatch Attack the Alligators again rather than...
What's the other one?
The Duchess Assignment.
Come on.
That's
one of my favorites.
Sorry. Again, to jump the timeline... Lindsay and our company is called Gazelle Automations Incorporated. It is an incorporated company. So we have completely fulfilled, except for the fact that we don't make talking elevators and stuff like that.
I was just going to say that's the next step in our growth as a company.
And we haven't been trying to like get an old lady to sell us a painting of a
Also
of a
the next step in our growth.
Not yet, yeah.
It'll come.
Exactly.
It'll come. But obviously that episode, it's so absurd and so wonderful. And I think you can tell that Dave Elliott, our dear friend Dave Elliott, had a fun time directing that one because it's so ridiculous. I mean,
they're both ridiculous in their own ways. I think they're both on the more ridiculous end of all the stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then Alligators, which Patillo wrote, is clearly like a B-movie homage, and it's got all the makings of it. The way they're talking, all the characters are talking. You've got the haunted house with the old housekeeper and everything. You got everything, right? The lightning,
Mrs.
everything,
Danvers,
right? Yeah. And then you've got this Duchess Assignment episode, which is so... Sorry, I know this is not what our podcast interview is about, but it's so weird. It's so weird.
And to think that back then it was like, this is a kid's show.
Yeah. A show for family.
Compared, can you imagine that now on, like a kid's broadcaster? Let me pitch you this idea. There's a lady who's addicted to gambling.
And there's a man with a gazelle fetish. Exactly. And they meet.
And they're all smoking cigarettes.
Right, and there's a lot of cigarettes, yeah.
I would watch that
show.
Yeah, me too.
It is amazing in many ways, but a lot of this viewed through a contemporary lens.
Yes.
You just think, why would you do this?
But I just have to say, I love in the Duchess Assignment how everybody at International Rescue is so, but the Duchess, this whole, and it's heartwarming. Oh no, we have to save the Duchess but they launch the Thunderbirds to take this old lady in this burning house and get her out.
The local authorities might have been able to handle that.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I mean, it's very noble and lovely in a way, but most peculiar.
But it's so, you can tell it's over the top. Yeah, of course. Anyway, sorry, we went off a tangent.
No. Oh, that's your fault, Justin.
Yes.
No, I'm going to bring you back. On FIS, then, you must have made some discoveries and learned some stuff about both the people and the techniques.
Oh, yeah.
Are there any kind of striking recollections or discoveries that you made in that process, even if it's just down to how bloody difficult the puppets are to work with in sets and that kind of thing?
So puppets, I think, I don't want to speak for you, Lindsay, but I feel like you and I have a similar take on the difficulty of puppets, because there obviously was the discussion from especially directors, Des Saunders talking about it in the documentary, and various people on the crew about how difficult it was to work with puppets. My feeling about it, I think our feeling about it, is that puppets are difficult to an extent, but they're puppets. And so I've had a really good experience working with the Supermarionation puppets. They do what you expect them to do. I mean, we did make some adjustments to our puppets over time to kind of update them a little bit on the inside of their heads. There were certain mechanical things that they used in the 60s. The original studio corrected this stuff moving into Captain Scarlet. I'm not talking about the proportions. I'm talking about even things like the eye mechanisms. They improved them starting with Captain Scarlet, so they had posts that kept them straight. Because if you watch, I don't know, I don't want to ruin it for the Thunderbirds fans out there, but again, once you've made, I guess we can say this, once you've made Thunderbirds, you've actually made episodes of Thunderbirds, you can't not see the same problems that we had, which is the eyeballs in those puppets look everywhere all over the shop. You know, a particular episode that's bad is Mr. Hackenbacker, alias Mr. Hackenbacker, where Lady Penelope's one eye is up, one eye is down. It's because of the way the eye mechanisms worked in those Thunderbirds puppets. And by the time they did Captain Scarlet, they put vertical posts. There was actually an eye mechanism hub that was bolted into the head that kept the eyes straight. And then they had a different mechanism to even move the eyes left and right that would avoid the other problem we had, which was the wire. So this all does relate to your question, Jamie. Do you want to talk about the eye wires?
Well, I was going to say, actually, before we get into the specifics, because I think that actually more applies to TV65.
Yeah.
But, in terms of how techniques progress from project to project, on FIS specifically, that was the first time, certainly, I had worked with the Supermarionation puppets. Yeah. And I feel like there's such a contrast between how I felt working on those puppets for that film and then how I felt working on them for TV65. Because, I mean, for starters, I think when we were shooting the FIS puppet stuff here, some of it, we were using fishing line.
Oh, right? Yeah. We didn't have tungsten. Them. Yeah, which is terrible for the way you operate
It makes such a... And, it makes... But that was my first experience. So, and the fishing line, because it's a bit stretchy, the level of movement you can get out of a puppet with fishing line is just not the same. The control, it's just not the same as doing it with tungsten, which we did on TB65.
Yeah. And again, we're using TB65, Thunderbird's anniversary episodes, and Thunderbird's 50th, or whatever we're calling them. We're using them interchangeably. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all the same.
The 3 episodes that we made in 2015. That's those ones. Yeah.
But I think FIS was sort of where we discovered where we got to kind of test the ropes a bit with the puppets. And
there's a pun in there.
Yes, literally. Test the fishing line with the puppets.
Test the string.
And really get to learn, at least for me personally, how to string them. Yeah. Because that's challenging no matter what.
Yeah. Five wires on the head.
5 wires on the head, very specific.
It takes a little time to do.
But doing it for the first time, it's just, oh man, that just took forever. And I think you have a story about trying to string the puppet.
I had to string Mike Mercury, and I'm not talking about a replica. We were stringing the original Mike Mercury, and that was slightly terrifying. So
I bet.
The guy, I'm not going to say his name. I'm not sure we're allowed to say his name, but the guy who owns the original Mike Mercury, because I think there were 2 of them. Am I right, Jamie? There were 2.
I think so. Yeah. I'll leave that to your better judgment there. I don't know.
Again, fans are like, this guy's supposed to know stuff about this. Look, I think there were 2. There were 2 Mike Mercurys, because they made a second set of puppets that didn't quite look like the first set for series 2, right? So anyway, this guy had one of them, and he brought him. Steven had arranged to have him bring the original Mike Mercury, and we had him. And again, if you watch the filmed in Supermarionation, I can't say it, filmed in Supermarionation, yeah. If you watch that bit where we go into Ipswich Road, which was the building where your dad and Sylvia and all those people used to work, that little tire warehouse, the garage, that's the original Mike Mercury hanging there. And so I had to string him with Barry Davies, the puppet maker extraordinaire, who has a lot of ties to your dad's work because he worked on Calling Elvis and Weetabix and all sorts of stuff. But Barry and his wife Annette and me, we were stringing this puppet, and again, this was with the gantry. So Stephen had a gantry done up so that it was kind of an emulation of
a bridge.
A puppet bridge, so that you could get up there and operate kind of like they did in the 60s. So this is the longest stringing job we'd ever done, because I'd only wired Scott Tracy at home, with these very short, 2 foot, whatever wires, and we were doing 6 foot wires, and were we using tungsten? I don't think so. We were using fishing line, but it was mortifying, and I didn't know it. We didn't know how to do that because we never strung something this long, right? So
you were doing it on the ground.
I think we did it we laid Mike Mercury as if he was lying on the floor, and then we ran to the other side of the building because it's such a tiny building. You can't believe that they made Fireball XL5 in that building, and we wired him that way. But and I remember when Mary Turner came and grabbed the controller, I felt so bad about it. See, I'm really revealing all the secrets. Look, it's an amazing film. Any deficiencies are my fault. She had to lift her arm quite high because we didn't. The wire was a bit too long. But the thing is, it was so difficult to do, and we were down to the wire.
Gross.
Anyway, but we got him working, and you can see his eyes moving and all that kind of stuff, and it was cool. And of course, it was only, I guess I would say, that we only improved because then when we got to filming the actual segments. You know, the bits where Lady Penelope and Parker are telling the story about your dad and his little troop. Parker was actually strung on tungsten, and it was I think it was original. It was tungsten.
Original tungsten, yeah.
Mary Turner brought a reel they had chemically blackened tungsten wires, what they used in the 60s, right? To stop it from glistening, which, by the way, even though people might say, you could see the wires glisten in the original show, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference if you've got the chemically blackened stuff. That same chemically blackened stuff is the reason why all the blonde characters on those shows have black
little patches
on their hair, is because
whenever the wire rubs on the hair, it just rubs it off.
It would just flake right off, right? But it does make a difference. So we had Parker strung on that. And my goodness, because I puppeteered Parker for that stuff. I puppeteered Parker, and then I puppeteered Lady Penelope. There's an easier way of saying this. I did the puppeteering on FIS, because I did all the characters except for Scott Tracy, which you puppeteered when we were in Toronto. Lindsay, I'm looking at you, Lindsay.
Yes,
I forgot the podcast listeners can't see this. And Parker was on tungsten wire that Daryl Warby and his assistants, Daryl Warby the puppeteer, he's a British puppeteer, they strung that Parker puppet with long tungsten wire, and then I ended up puppeteering him, and it was amazing because I found so much control from that, because the tungsten doesn't give at all. So if you turn the head, it's funny because Roger Woodbourne talks about he says it in the documentary about like how there was a little delay right when you turn it. But there is so much more of a delay when you're doing it with fishing line.
And I think the delay as well, like for you doing it on 6-foot wires versus 2-foot wires, there is obviously more time for the movement to travel down the wire. So,
but it's so, because that wire doesn't have any give, I found it was such a negligible delay.
Yeah.
And it was a joy, like doing those scenes, especially with Parker on FIS, it was a really fun experience. And all those scenes where Brains is in the laboratory, we didn't have a bridge for that because it was in a different part of Bray. So I'm on a ladder, and now I think back about that, I'm just like, that was probably really, because like I was on the edge of just leaning over a ladder doing that. But it's like that again, just like the 60s, right? It was.
If you see photos from the puppeteers in the 60s,
oh my god,
their center of gravity is nowhere near that bar on the puppeteer bridge.
But and again, any just to be clear for disclaimer, whatever, like we did FIS safely, and we did TB65 safely. We had the bridge was scaffolding equipment, so it was like all safety rated and all that stuff. Anyway, so that was our first kind of
foray
into really delving professionally into Supermarionation puppets. And I can tell this story. We have this Brains puppet now. It's all in the past. I was testing, so we did get some tungsten wire from Ormiston, and Ormiston is the company that made the wire for AP Films. Like that's where they went to get it. Now, if you go on their website, I think they still got a page that says like we made the wire for Thunderbirds, right? But thing is, when we rang them up and said, hey, can you make us some Thunderbirds tungsten wire? They were like, we have no idea how to do that. And we're just like, what?
A lost art.
Yeah. Like, you really can't, and we were trying to, we were looking through old articles where John Reed is talking about the thickness of the wire or whatever, and we sent them numbers. I remember this. Like, I emailed Ormiston. I said, here's the numbers, here's how thick to do it or something. And they made a spool, like a test spool for us. And so there was a day when I was at Bray, maybe the first day I was at Bray, and I was testing the strength of the wire. And the thing is, if this wire is as strong as it's supposed to be, even just one wire should be able to hold up a Supermarionation head. And I had Brains, just his head, and I had the front wire was tied on there. And I was lifting him up, and it snapped, and his head just smacked the set. And I looked, and no one saw this, and I picked it up, and Barry had just finished making this puppet, right? For the movie. He was fine. He was totally fine.
Fiberglass.
These puppets are made out of the stuff you make car bodies out of. Like they're very robust, thank God.
Yeah.
So that tungsten wire was not going to work. So we went the route of using fishing line for everything except Parker. And if anyone's wondering why in that movie there are no visible wires, it's because me and my visual effects friend here in Toronto, we digitally removed all the wires. And the reason was not because we're trying to be revisionist history about it. I don't have any problem with the wires from Thunderbirds, right? But the fishing line was so thick, it looked like there were spaghetti noodles coming out of their heads.
Yeah, it's funny because when you look at fishing line just on its own, you're like, oh, this is really thin. But then, when you see it coming out of a puppet's head, you're like, wow, I'm really noticing it.
Yeah.
So
as a proportion.
We just made a decision. We were like, let's just get rid of all the wires. It was very antithetical, I think, to what your dad with Sylvia, with all those people were aiming for.
Well, they were always trying to,
hide
the fact that they got it blackened was to hide it. So, that was the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, painstaking stuff, I guess, painting out all those wires.
It took a long time.
If you can avoid it.
Yeah. So, obviously, by the time we... am I jumping to when we got to Thunderbird's anniversary
perfect time.
Yeah, we had, again, thanks to Mary Turner, we had a reel of original tungsten. In fact...
And that lasted us the whole time, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did.
Yeah, and in fact, I think
How much did she have?
She had a lot.
Now,
because remember, she went and did Rupert, the bear.
Using the same
techniques. So it was all tungsten. In fact, I think this is true, that the solenoids, the electromagnets inside the Rupert puppets were actually literally nicked out of the Captain Scarlet puppets, which is really funny. like the idea that these internal mechanisms that once allowed Captain Scarlet to talk allowed a little talking bear to talk. But anyway, so she had not only the head tungsten wire, but there was a different thickness of tungsten used for the hands, so they were even thinner, so that if it crossed in front of the face, it wasn't so awful. We had both, and so Mary brought both.
Wow! And
it meant that stringing, we were doing it fully authentically. Mm-hmm. We were using the 1960s chemically blackened Ormiston tungsten wire, and it was a joy. When I say it was a joy to work with, I mean it allowed us to have that kind of control that they had in the 60s, and we didn't have to paint any of it out digitally.
Yeah. As much as wire can make something a joy, that wire made it a joy.
I mean, we also would go home at the end of a long shoot day, and we'd literally find ends of it in our, pants and stuff.
It's sharp as heck.
And when I say pants, I mean it in the British sense. Yeah.
Yes. And I imagine.
And in the Canadian sense.
And in the Canadian, in every sense, yeah. You just find little bits of this poking at you in all sorts of weird places.
And probably still, even now, 6 years later, you're finding it somewhere.
Well, definitely.
There was that scene we did where they're in the Abominable Snowman. There's snow blowing at the characters, right? And this was shaved polystyrene. That's what it was. Yeah. And so we were blowing it with a fan, and months and months and months after we came back to Canada with the puppets, Scott Tracy still had... If you peeled his hair back, there was still bits of polystyrene in his hair. It never all came out.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
The static cling.
Yeah. It's just little and that stuff got everywhere too.
Everywhere.
There's a behind-the-scenes shot I'm sure some fans have seen of Hilton Fitzsimmons, who built so many of our beautiful sets, and he's just doused in this stuff, because he was I think he was holding one of the puppets down. I can't remember what he was doing, but he's doused in this stuff. Anyway, that was it's a lot of hijinks.
I guess we're talking about that now.
Yeah.
Or
we are on Thunderbirds. Well, so on that note, then it was one thing doing a documentary and doing segments which are a kind of a tribute to and trying to recreate as much as possible. It's quite another thing to say, right, you're going to recreate these episodes as closely as possible to the originals. No pressure. Good luck, guys.
Yeah.
How did that come up, and how did it feel before you started, knowing you had this undertaking?
So I think, so I don't remember it this way, but Stephen LaRiviere, who again, it was, I think he and I were the people who ran the project, really. It was, we kind of led the whole thing together. And he told me, I think a year or two after we did the thing, that it was my idea in the first place. I don't remember that. But
congratulations, Justin.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I'm sure any fan has thought about this. There are those mini albums. They are only audio, right? They have no picture. I'm sure it crossed his mind too. But I think at some point, and again, maybe he'll correct me one day or some other fan will correct me. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong. But I remember him saying to me, this was your, you kind of came up, suggested this idea. Because we might have been in the car together going somewhere. And we had the mini album on. Maybe that's what it was. And I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be crazy cool if they let us... we did these puppet segments for FIS. What if we did these full episodes, right? I don't remember it that way, but it really took both of us, because Stephen has as listeners might know, he's written books about this. He's got an encyclopedic knowledge about this stuff. And I feel like, I guess I also have a pretty encyclopedic knowledge about this stuff, although I couldn't tell you how many Mike Mercurys there were. So we went about starting to do this thing. We pitched this idea to ITV. Or did they might have reached out to us to ask us if we had any ideas for what to do for the 50th anniversary.
Because of FIS.
Yeah, because FIS did so well. And then I made this little pitch document, which was, I still have it, which is like made to kind of look like an album, but it was like a A4 paper. And then we said we're going to do these 3 episodes, and we'd raise money on Kickstarter. So basically, ITV doesn't have to make a big investment, and it would be for the fans, but an official production. And so they went for it, and you obviously got behind it, Jamie, and we went to
Slough.
I was going to say Sylvia. I think. Sylvia, had she passed away by that point?
No, she was still around.
Yeah, right. So she gave her blessing. And so we went around, we just kind of got everybody's like, cool, let's, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
And, Dave Elliott was involved.
Mary Turner.
Mary Turner was, Mary just got to, should we talk about Mary?
Oh, we will talk about Mary.
Yeah.
I know we're just talking about the origin
sorry.
right now.
I just want to jump all over the place. I can't stay in one place in a story. So, so the first step, of course, was to kind of break down these episodes and kind of what we would need for them. And so my first job on that, still in Canada, like I started doing this while I was in Canada, was designing some of these sets, designing some of the props, and redesigning or creating new blueprints for stuff that people knew. Andy Rolfe and David, oh my gosh, help me here. David Mason, thank you. So they were the ones who rebuilt the Tracy Lounge. And that was a heck of a lot of work. And for FIS,
it's huge.
Yeah, FIS, Andy had done the area, the desk area, and he'd done it kind of with the best kind of ability he could. And again, just so everybody knows, getting stuff to the right scale for these puppets is super difficult. And if you're trying to recreate it, it's even more difficult. So his original desk that we did for FIS, it was a little bit too big. And again, this is not a slight against him. It's a very hard thing to do. So when we went into TB65, we knew that we'd have to build a whole new Tracy Lounge. And so Andy Rolfe and David Mason, they set about making basically every part of that lounge, and I supplied the measurements for the desk area. And I did that by creating a 3D model in the computer based on stills from the show. And so all of this was scaled. And I honestly think we got pretty darn close, because like everything was scaled to puppet measurements. So it was pretty, like, there is actually a picture, I don't know if we've publicly shared this, where it's like a picture from Pit of Peril, I think, and then our episode, and it's Scott standing at the desk with Jeff sitting at the desk, and it's the same characters and the same set, and it's really close. And so I again, not trying to pat ourselves on the back here, but I really, really wanted to make sure that because it's such an iconic, recognizable area of the set. And again, so it was like a combination of me doing that thing, and I did all the those Japanese paintings, those like the ones on the circles and on the side of the
sort of the geisha type piece.
They're like again, I should know what they actually are, but it's like olden times actors would dress up, Japanese theater actors would dress up as both male and female characters. So those ones that are behind Jeff Tracy on those circles, plate-looking things, those are male actors dressed up as female characters, I believe. Right? So and then there was one on the, I can't describe any of this stuff, but the big one, the big painting, the big black and white painting.
Wall, yeah.
So I recreated all that stuff. I painted that stuff like again. So it was me in Photoshop with a tablet pen recreating that stuff. Some of it was tracing, some of it was guessing. And so that stuff was all resupplied. And even the I'm sure some fan out there has found the source of that label under the TV with all those like oven knob looking things where it says temperature and all that stuff. I don't know if it was either it was like a actual piece of scientific equipment or a kid's oven toy. I don't know what it was.
Playset type thing.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a fan out there who has found the original. At the time we made it, we did not know exactly what that was, so I recreated that as well. And that was like, I went down to trying to get the because it was like, I think like, the letters were put on one at a time. So I didn't just type it out, right? It was all like done by hand. Yeah, exactly. So it's a little bit imperfect. And so when you watch those scenes, you should just feel like you're back in the Tracy Lounge with your friends, So I did the design of the pistols, IR pistols. So I created those in Maya. We sent them to Weta in New Zealand, where David Tremont, who you've already talked to on this podcast, who also worked on the episodes, he had access to Weta's, because he's like, a senior model maker at Weta. So he had access to their really nice 3D printer and their really nice, people who work there, staffers, the artists who work there. So they created those pistols for us. So I sent the 3D file to them, and they brought a bunch of, I can't remember how many we had done. We had a life-size version done for an insert shot that you could hold in your hand, which was cool. Which we still have. It's here somewhere. I don't know where it is. No, I know where it is. It's somewhere. It's in our bedroom. Yeah, it's.
Where else do you keep your international rescue pistol?
In case someone breaks in. In case someone breaks in the middle of the night, and then
that was fun explaining that to customs.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's not real. Actually, you know what? When we came back from England after doing FIS. We had the box set that Network put out, right? You might have it too, Jamie, the big red box, right? And we were stopped by customs, and they said, "Hey, you're not allowed to bring
cigarettes.
That's a box of cigarettes, isn't it?" We're like, "No."
We're like, "Look inside."
Yeah, it's just a bunch of geeky Blu-rays, and
they're like, just go,
get out of here,
get out of here.
Yeah. So that's how TV65 started. Was a lot of planning out and designing sets, and I sent the ice cave designs to Hilton. I designed that station that the hood is standing at, the one where he's pulling the lever.
The console with
the console.
Lights.
So I sent that design to Hilton.
And the cave itself, right?
The cave, I drew a sketch of it, and then Richard Gregory built that, which that was like, this is how hardcore Richard was. He's old school. Like I'm sorry, again, I have to speak in past tense. He's no longer with us. He was old school, hardcore film dude. Because do you remember, Lindsay? We were filming, and he was like slicing polystyrene blocks with like a sawzall.
Yeah.
And he was doing it like in the dark because we were filming, and so we couldn't have the house lights on. Yeah. And he was just hardcoring it, And
but never did I think, oh no, Richard, be careful. I was like, oh no, he's got this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
he'll be fine.
Just to be clear, health and safety, for anyone who's a maker now, wear your respirator, use an extraction, whatever. These are anybody we were working with who was like of the previous generation on Thunderbirds TV65. They were like, old school, no respirator. They've got the can of body filler. I mean, we all did it while we were there. Like the can of car body filler just open. Oil paint fumes, everything, right? The thinner. Oh my God.
It was the authentic experience,
it was.
really.
Yeah.
Minus the asbestos.
Yeah, we didn't have any asbestos on set. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice change.
As far as we know.
Thank you, Justin and Lindsay. More next week and the week after.
Yes.
But
the week after that.
No, just 2 weeks. Just 2 more weeks.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
But there was just so much we covered. We could have gone on for more, I think. But, they had places to go, people to see, puppets to puppeteer. So we had to cut it a little bit short. But, yeah, really great. And lovely mentions of our dear late friend of the show, Richard Gregory, in there as well. We often mention people like Richard, and it's hard to convey the effect that they've had on the worlds of Anderson and beyond. But to hear Justin and Lindsay saying just how much they learned and how much kind of positivity and sort of passing on of the skills that Richard brought to them is really, really lovely and a great testament to him. So thanks both for giving him a mention. But more next week, more Thunderbirds and more about Justin Lindsay's show Meekshi, which goes live on YouTube at the end of the month, which is heavily influenced by Stingray Thunderbirds and beyond, and you'll see lots of things there, and is a great access point for puppetry to kids. Well, kids of all ages, shall we say.
Great. Lovely.
More very soon. Richard James, what else have you got from the worlds of Anderson and Podsterons and all that?
Well, let's head back online, shall we, and see what people have been saying about us.
Yes,
please. Now, if you're on Twitter, don't forget you can tag us, hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast, and Tell us what you think about the show and which bits you've been enjoying and which bits you haven't been enjoying. Yes. For example, Lost in Transition says, a big thank you to Randomiser Chris Dalek for reminding us of one of the greatest starship engineers of all time, Isambard from Lavender Castle. And as always, thanks to the legendary Jamie Anderson and Richard James for keeping the magic alive.
I suspect that legendary encompasses both of us, surely.
Do you think?
I hope so.
Hayden Gribble posted a picture of HD21 from Network Distributing. That's a collection of key episodes from various Gerry Anderson series in high definition, and he tweeted, time to introduce the 5-month-old to the worlds of Gerry Anderson. Get them hooked at an early age. Damn right, he's watching all 400 minutes of adventure.
Nice.
That's great, isn't it? Yeah, 5 months. I think that's possibly one of the youngest, that we've had. Over on YouTube, people have been posting beneath our various podcasts and our Fab Facts segments. For example, Ian Dealey posted beneath Pod 169, last week's episode, saying, I really enjoyed Justin and Lindsay's work on Nebula 75, where they voiced Commander Ray Neptune and Lieutenant Solstice, respectively. And to have them do a 4-part interview in this podcast is, capital letters, brilliant.
Yes, it absolutely is. They are so lovely as well. But
O.D. Dillon posted, I share Justin's FAB or Fab enthusiasm, having watched many shows in the USA when they were released here. Thunderbird, Stingray, Supercar, Captain Scarlet and Torchy remain favourites to this day. They take me back to better days and keep my inner child alive and well. Now, we also post the Fab Facts there as well. And I think last week was about, or a couple of weeks ago, was about Gerry Anderson characters introducing other TV shows via inserts and scenes and so on. Ryan Kearns posted, I think Captain Scarlet appeared on the show. And Francis Matthews was voicing the character. I think I saw some videos. Golden Shot, right, yes. And he said, I think I saw some videos on YouTube with Sergeant Major Zero promoting Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends and saw that he said, take it away, boys.
Yes.
Kevin Russell says, I recall seeing Captain Scarlet on a Saturday morning kids TV show about 1990. Can't recall the name of the show, promoting a record called Mr. on Rap by FAB, a group of record producers that took themes from Gerry Anderson shows and remixed them into dance tracks with varying degrees of success.
Well, that sounds like Power Themes 90, doesn't it?
It does,
which is, I think, technically banned from this podcast.
Right, okay, let's move on. Yeah. Alex Rogan says, I remember the Sergeant from Terrorhawks introducing Inspector Gadget. Yeah. And finally, Mike Kane, referring to my take on Windsor Davis, said, whoa, that was a great Zero Davis impression. I thought it was an audio insert. Well done.
Nice. I told you it was good, Dickie James, didn't I?
My work here is done.
Yes. Well, congratulations. You can just kick back and have a little rest now.
Yeah. Now, ideally, we'd love it if you listen to the podcast via various apps or even at the website, but I know that some of you do like to head on over to YouTube. It's up there every week, but just bear with us. It might not be up, when you expect it. Give it a couple of hours and it'll turn up.
Yeah.
And you can listen to it there.
Exactly. It just it's an extra layer of stuff for people to do.
Yeah.
And poor Ben and co to sort out. So
that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, look. Did you see that?
What?
Well,
Chris
lit his moon things, and they just sort of went.
They kind of
and then it just
out.
bounced off the table. So not much of a breakaway, Chris. After all that build-up with the orrery.
Never mind. Yes,
so,
orrery.
Maybe the randomizer should stick to what he knows and not try to blow up orreries in the future. What do you think?
There's a lesson for us all.
Yeah, okay. Stick to what you know. Stick to what you do best. But he does do it extremely well. Chris, I know it's random. If you could sort something Space 1999 for us, that would be really good. But if not, then make it something equally good. Over to you.
Well, yes, I'm telling them. I will tell them. Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, no time for a big introduction today, as Zill has already pressed the button on the randomizer, and it's... Well, yes, I am going to tell them. I will tell them. Will you just shut up? And it's... Yes, Zill says to tell you that it's Thunderbird's Edge of Impact. Right, and also that you all smell. Well, no, that's what Zill... No, that's what Zill says. That's what Zill says. So, welcome back to Thunderbirds on the Randomizer, and welcome to the episode, I think this is probably, if you were going to give an award for episode title that
proceed with attack on Installation 1.
That basically means nothing. I'm sure this episode would take the top spot. It sounds so cool. Edge of impact. Until you actually really sort of stop and think about it. And, it's not... there is an impact. I'm not quite sure what the specific edge involved with that is, but my goodness does it sound cool. And this is a very, very cool episode especially if you like aircraft. We're opening in unnamed Countrystan, where this fighter jet is going through its paces, about to attack. Well, it's new footage of a boat, which suddenly becomes stock footage from an episode of Stingray, Star of the East, I think. As our title comes up, this captain looks at his, he's blown up a small installation, a sort of small power plant thingy, and watching from a nearby bunker are General Braun.
That will do. Return to base.
And the Hood.
Well, now are you convinced?
General, I am beside myself with admiration. It is the
I always thought that was a very un-Hood-like line. I'm beside myself. I'm so excited.
Master of the land and sea as well.
What about the air?
Arrow. Red Arrow. What is that? Surely no aircraft is superior to what you have just shown me.
Yes. In speed alone, the Red Arrow can outmaneuver us. I want you to do something for me. A little favor, for which I shall repay you generously.
And I love that at the mention of money, the Hood's eyes light up.
All rivals must be removed from my path. Do you follow me?
Perfectly, General. Perfectly.
Very well. All prototypes of Red Arrow will be destroyed.
I think that's the only time the Hood's eyes light up, when he's with another person. He's not using them to hypnotize somebody.
Perfectly. The Red Arrow is doomed.
I think that's a lovely touch that they might just light up when he gets excited. It's probably why he doesn't go out in public very often. Anyway, over at the London airport...
All personnel to clear test area 20.
It's our old friend, Commander Norman.
Security conditions will be operating throughout test procedure, and I want airport activity to be reduced to an absolute minimum.
Yes, we're now at London Airport. This is the same London Airport as seen in Trapped in the Sky and Operation Crash Dive and later episodes.
Is now operating.
For some reason, this civilian airport is being used to test a military aircraft.
Begin the photographic alert procedure.
Yes, sir.
Again, being worried about people taking photographs of things. Yeah, why would you shut down a civilian airport to test a military jet? Wouldn't you do that out of a military airbase?
Okay, get the hangar cleared and give me the pilot. Hangar now clearing, sir. Pilots on channel 2.
I also love Ray Barrett's voice for this character. And of course, here we go. Another fantastic jet that, instead of moving the jet out of the hangar, we'll move the hangar off of the jet, because that by far is the easier thing to do. It doesn't make any sense, but it's glorious. I love when they do things like that, especially considering that the Red Arrow that is ultimately revealed is quite a small jet. Love as well that the music ends on that slightly ominous note. But I'm sure all the holiday makers and so forth are really, really pleased that London Airport has been shut down to test this Red Arrow thing.
Normal airplane that you will be taking up today. I want all flying instructions carried out to the letter and no more. Is that clear? Yes, sir. All right, then.
This is a pilot named Race.
Take off and climb to 6,000 feet.
Meanwhile, in the airport car park, one of the few civilian vehicles that's apparently made it into the airport today, the North Pole Laundry Service, which you can, of course, now buy the logo from as a badge from the Gerry Anderson store.
I don't think it will be going very far today.
Ah, that's it. The Hood, in disguise as a laundry guy.
Well, here we go.
Good luck, sir.
Thanks, Norman.
And that's the first time I think Commander Norman is named on screen. It's also the first time he's appeared on the Randomiser, in an episode at least. So that's very exciting.
That's it, Race. Good luck.
This was an episode that, as a kid, I had one shop-bought Thunderbirds tape, and that was it. And it wasn't even episodes. It was...
Some aircraft you've got there.
Oh, here we go.
Sir, what a performance.
What a performance. I love that guy. Yeah, this was a tape released for the, I think, 30th or 35th anniversary of Thunderbirds. It was part of a series of 4. Heroes and Villains, The Machines, Great Disasters and Great Rescues. They were 50-minute compilations. I had Great Rescues, and this was on there.
Airspeed 4,000.
It was a 50-minute compilation with clips from like 10 different episodes. This was one of the episodes on there.
Hold your airspeed below 4,000.
I always remembered looking at the catalogue of episodes that were inside the tape and thinking, oh, if I could watch one of the episodes for full again, this was the one I wanted to see.
Your airspeed.
Because I remembered it being so good as a kid, and when I finally got around to watching it again, it didn't disappoint me. It's always been one of my favourites.
Hold off course.
I don't think it's quite top-tier Thunderbirds as such, but it is certainly a solid B-grade episode. But Race is having some trouble with the Red Arrow.
Dropping.
He's having trouble breathing, and
here she comes.
Quite an unpleasant end for this character, and it is, I think, the first death in Thunderbirds.
It is working even better than I dared hope it would.
Obviously, it depends what order you watch the series in, but yeah, Race has collapsed at the controls. The Red Arrow is coming in for a crash landing, and you don't often see death in Thunderbirds.
It's blacked out, sir.
So when it does come, it's quite a surprise.
Red Arrow from GB7. Bail out. Repeat. Bail out.
It's not a surprise to Commander Norman, of course, because, this is his airfield. If, just disasters are part of the normal day for him. And, I love those emergency vehicles tearing across the place. Yeah, it's quite strange to think that having done the Randomiser for, 3 years, this is our first visit to London Airport. Well, proper at least. It may have appeared in stock footage.
She's going to crash!
In other episodes, but there we go, getting the last vehicles away from the hangar before kablooey. Nice crash zoom on the face of Colonel Casey, and Race is dead.
Oh, what went wrong? What went wrong?
Although Casey doesn't seem particularly bothered. That's a very big fire, though, that has engulfed the hangar. Possibly quite a bit too big for the tiny fire engine that it's arrived to take care of the problem. Anyway. It's breakfast time on Tracy Island. There's that newspaper that appeared in Joe 90 quite a bit. Red Arrow test flight tragedy, Colonel Casey to be replaced. This is the episode it comes from.
Red Arrow. Colonel Tim Casey says that in spite of the crash, testing would continue, though he would no longer be
The Tracys are having a breakfast of Kellogg's Open Flakes. They've taken a cornflakes packet and replaced the C with an O and the R with a B.
You in the early days of space travel?
That's right. Looks like he's got quite a problem on his hands.
Gosh, you'd think they could eliminate all fault conditions before takeoff was attempted.
Well, don't
forget,
Red Arrow is powered by twin rockets, and that's still a pretty new field,
Yeah.
It's not like Tim Casey to test a new project and make a slip.
Yeah, you'd think they'd put stuff out there and it wouldn't break.
Sabotage.
What makes you think that, Father?
Because, how often has
it's a mighty powerful weapon.
Has a new vehicle been tested on this show and it's completely fallen apart the first time it's been tried out? It's very rare. Anyway, over at the Hood's pad, that's an unusual shot of the temple.
The most delicious feast, my friend.
The Hood actually has company for once. He's entertaining.
It suited your mood of celebration.
Yes.
He's laid on a massive feast for his friend General Bron.
You have indeed served me well.
Presumably he doesn't have a cook. He's laid this on all by himself, unless he's ordered takeout.
Was forgetting.
The General's brought a nice treasure chest for the Hood. Again, his eyes light up because he's getting excited, but no, we can't have that.
Soon, Red Arrow 2 goes out on test. It too must fail.
It will. It will.
Good. Then when the entire Red Arrow project is abandoned, this casket will be yours. You must not fail me in this. My own aircraft must not be superseded.
I will not fail you, General.
My country of wherever the heck it is I live must not be jeopardized because, I don't know. We've got big plans for wherever it is that General Braun lives.
There's something approaching the island. Seems to be traveling.
This is Brains' lab. Well, one of Brains' labs.
A distance away.
I assume it's a lab because there's equipment around the place, sciencey stuff, but there's also Brayman making his second appearance in the series, just standing there completely immobile.
Rescue setup that we've got.
Of course not.
And of course, in original broadcast order, this was broadcast before Sun Probe, so it was broadcast before Brayman was even introduced.
With you and the General being buddies in the early days, you might have talked it over with him.
You and he were buddies, weren't you?
Hold it, boys. Something's up.
Ooh.
We're not expecting visitors, are we, Father?
I don't think so, unless it's some more of Tintin's admirers.
More continuity that, again, doesn't make sense the way... If you watched this on original broadcast order, this would have been shown before End of the Road when Eddie Hausman was around.
Approaching on high-altitude flight path 408, Mr. Tracy.
Okay then, Brains. Keep tabs on it.
408?
Okay, Mr. Tracy.
Well, that's not a commercial flight path.
Well, that's not a commercial flight path.
Oh, it is quite worrying that... I remember lines from these shows, that's fine, but I remember really unlikely lines to remember.
Yeah.
And what's that?
Operation Cover-Up. Yay! I like that it's sort of not a joke, but it's a kind of, don't forget to do the thing. So who's this aboard the Skyhawk or Skylark? I can't make out the writing. Oh, now I can. Skyhawk. Little yellow plane thingy.
The island of Moila, he's heading straight for our base.
The island of Moila. Again, that's the only, I think, reference to there being other islands around Tracy Island. In the books and the comics sort of expanded universe, International Rescue had the Mateo Island, which was a sort of engineering base and storage facility that they would use to repair vehicles if needed. But, this is all looking... Well, I like the way they're presenting this as a possible attack on Tracy Island. Were it not for the fact that you can clearly see that it's Tim Casey being flown by a pilot who's wearing a similar uniform to Race. So we know it's not really going to be an attack. Plane wasn't dropping a missile, it was just unfurling a banner saying, "Greetings, Jeff Tracy." Because the first thing that the Colonel Casey did after poor old Race's funeral, well, whatever passed for a funeral, he went off and had this banner made. Bless.
Oh, what happened? They didn't attack.
Sounds disappointed.
I'll be. Just take a look at that. It's Tim Casey. Boys, looks like we got a visitor.
Does it read the same both sides, or does it, what would it read the other side? Earcart, Fedge, I don't know. Anyway, having had the Red Arrow, which again is a real-world display team, we're now heading over to another real-world thing, a BT Tower, British Telecommunication Tower, and there's the hood at the base of the tower, looking, well, some people have said it does look like he's having a tinkle before getting on with his latest evil plan, but he is in fact attaching another homing device to the tower. I do love the not just the image of this huge, very thin tower, but I mean, the thing looks like a complete death trap to start with, which is always good for a Gerry Anderson show. You want the thing to be a complete disaster waiting to happen, but I love the backdrop painting of the moody sky. It looks very atmospheric.
This is the relief maintenance speaking. I've checked the cross stanchion at 200 feet. You shouldn't have a thing to worry about in tomorrow's storm.
Oh, fine. We sure feel a lot happier now. Thanks for checking it out for us at such short notice.
Don't mention it. I'm glad to help you out. Good night, then.
Good night.
Oh, I love Pleasant Hood. That's something I wish we could have seen more of. Don't mention it. I'm glad to help you out.
All I have to do is wait for the next test of Red Arrow.
Oh, what's the matter, Tim? Still worried about that test tomorrow?
Yeah. Still got the death of an innocent colleague of yours on your conscience, Tim. I wouldn't worry about it.
Double-checked. Red Arrow 1 should never have crashed.
Well, here comes Brains now. Maybe he's found out.
It is strange, actually, that Casey seems more concerned with the plane than the pilot, which I suppose is a kind of Thunderbird's thing to a point, at least with guest vehicles.
I can find nothing to fault. Thank you, Brains. I was sure that Red Arrow was sound. She should never have crashed.
Well,
yeah, but Casey in particular is just very annoyed about the loss of the plane rather than the pilot. Race doesn't even get a mention.
Was sabotaged by some sort of homing device which the pilot was unaware of.
Oh, well, the pilot.
Would be one way of slipping through security.
No mention of his name.
A small detector which could tell the pilot whether it was being diverted during the next test.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for your help, Brains. I think I ought to send Goddard back to the base now.
I love how he doesn't sound particularly appreciative of Brains' work. It's, oh, yeah, well, you know, I suppose we'll do it, but...
Okay, Goddard, off you go. Thanks for the ride. Good luck with the test.
Sorry I won't be with you. So shall I, sir.
Now, don't forget to watch the diversion detector that Brains has given you.
If you think it'll do any good...
Saboteur's licked now.
So Goddard is heading home. Meanwhile, back at the BT Tower...
Just as well we got that stanchion fixed.
We have the engineers Jim and Stan.
Palm tree and a monsoon. The storm has reached Iceland already.
Looks like we're in for a swinging time.
Ooh, even more than usual. Yeah, I've always felt that Jim actually looks a lot like Greg Proops. The glasses and the hair. I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way, but regardless, we are now loading out Red Arrow 2 for another... no doubt highly successful test flight, and again no doubt London Airport has been shut down. Maybe they've put the fire out in the hangar, I don't know.
Hangar's open, Sam.
Thanks.
Jolly decent of you, what? Dash good thing of you to do, what? Oh, I love Commander Norman. I suspect that's possibly the only reason why they're doing this test at London Airport, because they're not really reusing the set of the airport as such. They're not using the familiar control tower, either model or puppet set. This looks like a brand new room. The only familiar element of all this is Commander Norman. So I suspect this was just them wanting to reuse a jolly nice guest character.
Red Arrow 2 to GB7.
And thank goodness they did. I would, as much as I don't understand performing the test of a military aircraft at a civilian airport.
Well, the storm's definitely on its way now.
I just love that it's Commander Norman in charge, because it's one more bow on his
by the storm?
His long string and catalogue of absolute chaos.
Causing it. There must be an aircraft in the vicinity.
It can't be. There's no flight path for miles around here.
The only explanation would be if there was a lunatic airport controller who signed up to do military testing.
Yes, sir. I'm veering off course. I tell you, this plane is flying itself.
Building to a very exciting scene.
This is the same trouble as before. You are already 80 miles off your flight path.
Off?
You are over open country. Dip your nose to a crash position and eject.
GB7 from Red Arrow. Diving now and ejecting.
Well, at least we're not going to lose this pilot. Goddard is taking the wise step of bailing out. But, of course, the homing device is pulling the Red Arrow off course towards the BT Tower.
This is GB7. Aerial test control to UK International Tele-Relay. We have an urgent message.
GB7 aerial test control. Is there an outside chance it's not London Airport?
An unmanned aircraft in your vicinity.
An unmanned aircraft?
We advise you to evacuate sky control.
What's the betting that's not even the silliest thing that Commander Norman has had to report to someone over the course of his career?
It's probably 1,000,000 to 1 chance we get hit.
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't have told us to evacuate sky control unless we're in real danger. Now, for Pete's sake, get that elevator up here. Quick.
I can't believe both of you don't turn up to work every morning thinking, my goodness, one day this thing is going to fall over. It's as thin as a matchstick.
Elevator's on its way, Stan.
But it's glorious. I love the build up to this as well. The music. Oh, I love this music. The storm sound effects, the lightning. You know what's coming. You know it's absolutely inevitable.
Attention, Sky Control. The unmanned aircraft is on collision course for your tower.
Collision course?
Oh, Commander Norman, I love you.
Come on, will ya?
But the music, I don't know. I don't think you can pin down one element in any really memorable sequence of Thunderbirds. I don't think you can really pin down one element that makes it work more than any other.
Believe it. Whatever it is that's drawing the Red Arrow off course must have fantastic power.
But without this music,
Two has landed safely, sir.
And despite what I said, that was actually a shot of the regular London Airport Tower. So this test is being conducted from the same building as the main control room.
Force. Where's that elevator?
It's too late. Here she comes. Hang on.
Oh dear. That's it. There's the impact. I mean, it was on one side of the tower. Does that count as the edge? I don't know. But it's a very cool title and a very cool image. Although not so much for the guys inside, because the thing is now swaying.
Jim, this place is gonna go over any minute. We're trapped.
And considering these two are fairly underdeveloped characters, I mean in terms of Thunderbird's guest characters, we haven't spent much time with them. I do like both of them. I am concerned for their plight, which doesn't always happen.
Positive, sir. The diversion detector was registering definite interference.
Right, thank you. I only hope they'll accept it as evidence at the inquiry.
Oh, I'm sure they always accept your evidence for every disaster you've ever had. How did Goddard get back to the tower so quickly?
We could never get them out of there. A helicopter would be out of the question with that storm raging.
I don't think you dare launch another aircraft at this point. Oh, they broke the teacup.
How much longer can we go on like this?
Yeah, I don't know if it's familiarity with this part of the episode in particular, having watched it so often on that tape.
International rescue.
But I do like these guys.
They can.
And there's really nothing to them as characters. We don't know anything of their hopes and dreams as such. We just know they're two ordinary guys working in a tower together. Seem to get on all right.
I don't know where you boys get your energy.
Take it easy.
Oh, what is she wearing?
Just an exhausting game of checkers.
Yeah, and we're conserving our energies for that walk around the island that we promised the Colonel for this evening.
Where's the Colonel now?
He's down at the pool with Father.
Ah, so it's another busy day on Tracy Island.
Hey, someplace you got here, Jeff.
Lots of smoking going on.
One thing that baffles me.
What's that, Tim?
I just can't figure what you do with yourselves all the time. I mean, those boys of yours, they ought to have something to occupy themselves with.
Well, we smoke. We do a lot of that. Oh, he's got an emergency light on the garnish in his drink.
Sure thing, Jeff.
This would have to happen when we have a visitor on the island.
I'll chuck him in the pool.
Trust Colonel Casey.
Well, that's not the point, Tintin.
Was there at Thunderbirds Are Go Fans, the CGI show, there is a Colonel Casey in that, isn't there? I admit I haven't seen much of that. I don't know too much about it. I saw the first 2 episodes and it didn't grip me, so I didn't go back. But that's a nice element of the original series to
and there's 2 men
to pull back and reinvent.
A conventional rescue would be impossible.
Gosh, I'm sorry to hear about the Red Arrow. I'm not going to enjoy having to tell Tim about this. But first of all, we got to get out there and save these 2 men.
Yay! Jeff knows what's what.
Yes, sir.
It's not about the plane, it's about the men.
You go and get Virgil up here.
Yes, Father.
Tintin, you've got to get Tim Casey out of the way. I don't care how you do it, as long as he doesn't see what we're doing.
All right, Mr. Tracy.
If I was a bit immature, I might put some raunchy music over that, but I won't. Because it's launching time.
Get moving, boy. A moment's delay could mean the difference between life and death.
But you told me to come in here.
Out of the way.
But Virgil doesn't even say anything. He doesn't even have any dialogue there.
Now, do you mind telling me what this is all about, Tintin?
Sorry, Colonel, but we just heard that there is a water mamba in the area. It's a rare tropical mammal. You may never get another chance to see one. There it is. Quick!
Hey! Hey, wait!
I like this as well, the way Tintin is used to lure Casey away.
Mr. Tracy, I'm taking the Colonel down to the underwater caves. Give me a call when the boys come back.
Good work, Tintin.
Wait, we have underwater caves?
Clear to go.
This is Thunderbird 1. I've been in contact with Danger Zone.
They say, ah!
National Rescue. Local conditions reported to be very bad. Boy, it must be tough on top of that tower right now.
So this is a very cool shot of a close-up on Thunderbird 1 as its wings extend as it swoops in to make a landing. I also like with the build-up to the launch, which has of course now happened. It was mostly played in silence until Tintin had got Tim Casey out of the way. So if you ever need to grab the sound effects of the Thunderbirds 1 and 2 launch hangars for any projects you may be working on, that is a jolly good place to grab them from. And here we are on a very wet model set. Lots of water flying about the place. Thunderbird 1 looks very soggy and the lightning just keeps going. It's they do a really good job here in establishing that conditions for this rescue are absolutely terrible, even if it does give the impression that this storm has been raging on for at least about 12 hours by this point. Thunderbird 1 landing on its wheels, which was a rare sight after the first episode.
Danger Zone. There's no place here to set up a control center. I'm going to operate from Thunderbird 1.
Because I don't want to get my hair wet.
0.5 minutes. Right. Channel in remote camera.
Oh yeah, the remote camera. This was a thing, wasn't it? This was in A Pit of Peril as well. I love the noise it makes. I kind of like the look of the thing as, not so much as a camera, but if it had been a vehicle, that might have been quite a nice vehicle design. As it is, I'm surprised they don't use it more often in the show, actually, but I can also see why they don't. Okay, it would be useful during rescues, but it does eat up a bit of time during the episode. But it does allow Scott to see where precisely the tower is broken.
Look at that main stanchion, Virgil. It's nearly gone.
Take the camera up to the top, Scott. Let's see what shape they're in. Be with you in 2.5 minutes.
Let's see if they're crying yet.
Now, this site is pretty dangerous, Virgil. When you come in, land on the west side, away from the impact area.
Oh, Scott has got such a great voice. Impact area, right. So that's the... is that why it's called Edge of Impact? Because you don't want to be on the east side of the impact?
Out of this mess.
Yeah, but the steel work can't hold out much longer.
I suppose Edge of Impact sounds cooler than Side of Impact. But they've seen the camera.
Oh, what the heck's that?
I don't know. That means that someone is down below.
Despite what Scott said actually about landing, it doesn't really seem like there's a particularly safe place to do so because, like I said, it's a very tall tower. It could topple in any direction. But it is one of those structures, as with the London car view, where you look at them and think, who signed off on the design and construction of this thing? It's just beautiful. It would only be in the Anderson universe that you'd find something as insane as this. I hope.
Nice landing, Virgil. Hey, make it snappy now. This thing isn't going to last much longer.
As I said, I'm afraid of getting my hair wet, so you do the work. I'll stay here and direct you. And of course, coming out of the pod, we now have this, I can't remember what the exact name for this thing is, because, I love that shot of Scott watching the pod door open from the safety and dry of Thunderbird 1. He just looks like a little kid who's cheesed off that he can't go outside and play today because it's raining. Yeah, here comes the mortar cannon thingy, which had also been seen as the cutting machine in 30 Minutes Afternoon. To be honest, I'm not sure if it's meant to be the same vehicle with a, where they've just removed and mounted a different attachment, or if it is meant to be a different vehicle entirely. It's definitely the same model, more or less, with Alan at the controls this time. And the tower has almost run out of bits to fall off it. Interestingly, on the model shot, the little figure of Virgil is wearing his uniform, but the puppet is wearing a raincoat.
I'll get the camera up there. Another of the secondary stanchions gave way. Now make it quick as possible.
I'm still not going out there. And But there is, I think, a continuity error coming up where Alan asks
much longer, Jim.
Virgil if he's okay before anything's actually happened to him.
Or we'll be down there beside them, in bits.
Ooh, that's an image.
Are they gonna get up here, Jim?
Are you okay, Virgil?
Yeah.
Nothing's happened to me yet, but I'm fine.
7-8.
Yeah, there's some debris scattered around Virgil there.
7-8.
But as yet, we haven't seen the debris fall on him.
Wind velocity, force 8. Check. Okay, Scott.
I also wonder in scenes like this, and I think I've said this in Stingray as well, when puppets are in the water, just how well protected they were against the water, if it was potentially damaging to them at all.
They're to attempt a rescue.
They can't just leave us up here. They've got to try something to get us down.
International rescue. All systems go. Good luck.
Rescue, go.
Yay. Shoot things at the tower.
Hey, what's going on?
An international rescue low-altitude escape harness. A pair of them in a tube. And it's nice to see international rescue having equipment like this that isn't reserved for themselves. Because basically these guys ultimately have to save themselves. They've been given the gear. They have to put it on and figure out how to use it themselves, which I think is probably closer to how a real rescue organisation might operate. The tower has nearly run out of bits to fall off it.
Come on.
Don't make me come out there, you know I don't want to.
Okay, Jim, you first.
I'll watch you fall to your death, and then if it doesn't work, I know not to try. Oh. Come on, Jim.
Here I go.
Come on, do it. It's just strange there's no music for this escape sequence. But I also like that the guys on the ground can't see what's happening. And these poor puppets look very battered and bruised. They've been through the wars a bit. Scott's still inside.
Look out!
Yeah, there's that shot of Virgil almost being hit by debris, which I've always wondered was meant to come just before the shot of Alan saying, "Are you okay, Virgil?" Because at that point nothing had happened to him. But there goes the tower. Doesn't collapse with an explosion or anything, but a rather satisfying collapse there nonetheless.
Gee, those poor guys. We were just seconds too late.
This is the first time international rescues failed.
No, fellas, look! Look! We did it. We did it. They're safe.
Yeah, define we there, Scott. They're safe. And when I get over to them, I am going to give them such a telling off for making me get out of Thunderbird 1 and get my hair wet. And Virgil has spotted the homing device.
Gee, I sure wish there was something we could do to vindicate Tim Casey. Perhaps this relay tower crash will bring something to light.
How's the operation going, by the way?
Well, I don't like to pester the boys with needless radio calls.
I like this, very casual attitude between Jeff and Brains to the rescue operation. Oh, yeah, that, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, really.
Managed to save the 2 relay operators, Father.
Yay.
Well done, Virgil. Are they okay?
Yes, they're okay.
Yay.
Father, we've just found something that may have accounted for the disaster.
Because we don't see them after that.
I'm putting it on the other channel. Perhaps you or Brains might have some ideas about it.
Shows how minor Jim and Stan were to the whole thing. We don't even get the international rescue saved us moment.
I think we have the solution, Mr. Tracy. This will account for the red arrow going off course during testings.
Right, Virgil. Inform the police that the saboteur is most likely in the area of the relay tower.
Well, no, what are the chances of that, really? It was hours ago. Why is he still around? Anyway, in other news, the Hood is still around.
At last.
I guess he stuck around to watch the crash.
Destroyed.
But he sure didn't make good use of the time afterwards.
Will be mine.
Surely he knew he would have to make an escape, but no. He just, I guess he stopped off at a motorside cafe or something. And what are the chances he's spotted by the police?
They will never catch up with me.
Not unless I stop for a unexplained considerable period of time, which is very unlikely. I love the design of this. It's a maintenance van now, isn't it? Yes. But he's wearing his laundryman disguise.
An ambush. They cannot stop me now.
I am structural repair laundryman, and I'm going through the roadblock. Yeah, why is he wearing his laundryman disguise? He wasn't wearing that at the tower earlier. Is that why he's taken so much time? He's dressed himself... He's been delivering laundry? I don't know.
This is 671. Calling General Brun.
Explain my motivations to me, please.
General Brun.
I do like this vehicle. I seem to recall... Was it made as a toy?
Discovered some evidence at the relay tower.
If not, it should have been. It's quite nice. Quite simple and quite nice.
Don't you know you can never get away from international rescue?
Already I have managed to shake off the police.
I'm dressed as a laundryman, by the way. Don't know if that helps.
We tried to warn him that the bridge was down, but he deliberately drove through.
Well, we better go and see what's become of him.
I adore these policemen. They're so casual about the hood's almost certain demise. There he goes. Kablooey! Well, no kablooey, because again, there's no explosion. The van just floats down the river.
You must fend for yourself now.
And all that laundry that may or may not be in the back of his structural maintenance engineer's van, that's going to be all soggy now. I'd like to have seen more of those policemen, though. Well, it looks like he's fallen off the cliff. Oh, well, never mind.
You've shown me over 20 underwater caves, and we haven't seen a mamba yet.
Oh, but Colonel, you must see a water mamba before you go back.
This is a beautiful swimsuit Tintin is wearing. Nice floral motif to the thing.
But Colonel...
With a light on top to indicate when the boys have returned.
All right, then. Perhaps we ought to be getting back.
And it's a rather thankless subplot for Tintin to sort of be shoehorned into, but it's nice to give her something to do.
Exactly as it was before the rescue operation.
It's nice that she has some use around here beyond just
here's the news we've got for him.
Making coffee.
Let me tell it.
Or delivering coffee.
Well, hello, Tim.
Coffee-related things.
We just heard on the newscast that the Red Arrow sabotage case has been split wide open.
Oh, that's great news. Who do I have to thank for that?
International Rescue, Colonel. They found that Red Arrow was being drawn off course by a homing device placed by saboteurs.
Virgil, I told you to let me tell him.
Real enterprising.
They've also sent out a request for you to get back to the research base at once for reinstatement.
Well...
research base, meaning London Airport? I don't even know what's going on anymore, but...
They certainly were.
I like this as well. Tintin basically giving an aside, almost a wink to the camera, sort of, she knows and we know, but he doesn't know. And there he goes, off on the Skyhawk, Jeff and Tintin waving him off. And as he goes, he's got one last banner to unfurl. Oh, it looks like on Casey's helmet he has a picture of a grumpy sunflower. If you look at it at a certain angle, as my head just was then, that's a fun image, as is the image of the Skyhawk unfurling the banner, "Thanks Jeff Tracy." What a nice way to end what is a lovely episode of Thunderbirds. As I said, it's always been one of my favourites. I wouldn't say that it is top tier, but it is definitely up there as one of the best. I adore the imagery of the tower swaying in the storm. I love that we've got the hood around being working for someone else, which was never quite felt right to me, but I suppose it makes sense, and General Bron is a nice enemy. We also have nice guest characters in Jim and Stan. As I said, I don't feel they were used to their fullest potential, but they were used just enough to make you feel sympathetic for them. Tim Casey is a nice character, although ultimately he doesn't really do much beyond, for the second half of the story, he is largely gone, as you might expect. And, of course, Commander Norman. Who doesn't love Commander Norman and his patented wacky madness? So, all in all, lots of really strong elements to this one. Lots of elements that make up a really good Thunderbird situation and an episode. Not perhaps the greatest rescue, despite what my tape claimed, but certainly a lovely disaster, a lovely rescue scenario that is realised very effectively and very enjoyably.
Well, you go. If ever you wanted proof that the randomizer truly is random, on Breakaway Day, the 30th of September, it's not a Space 1999 episode. It's blooming Thunderbirds. I mean, who even likes Thunderbirds? It's not like it's very popular.
You're right. I know, exactly. Yeah.
So, Chris, Edge of Impact. I mean, there's a vaguely Space 1999 kind of feel with a title, maybe, Edge of Impact. Not really. No, can't even tenuously link it. But thank you, Chris, as always. No more pyrotechnics next week, though, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, all for now. But do also remember that Chris has his own little dedicated podcast all to himself.
I think it's an Aldi podcast. His little podcast, the Gerry Anderson Randomiser podcast, where you can just hear the randomizer on its own without me and Dickie, talking all over it. So that's good.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
Yeah, go there and do that. Right, look, it's the end of the show.
It is.
It's time for me to remind you that it's 13th of September. I don't know if you've heard us mention it before, which is Breakaway Day, it's a very special day in the world of Space 1999, and it is the day that we are launching pre-orders for the Space 1999 Moonbase Alpha Technical Manual. The Standard Edition and the Special Edition are live for pre-order from 5 p.m. tonight. The Special Edition is highly limited, 311 units only worldwide, 149 this week only, going up to 199 if there are any units left next week. Standard Edition is $34.99. And if you order either the standard or special this week, then you will get a special Conquer the Moon poster and a mission patch, which will not be available after this week, but they are freebies. So you get 20 quid's worth of extra stuff, as well as your pre-ordered items. So head along to shop.gerryanderson.com and grab them from 5 p.m. UK time tonight, or potentially miss out. And we would hate for you to miss out, so please don't.
Yes, absolutely. Sounds very exciting.
It is very exciting. It's an amazing book, and the team have done a fantastic job, and I'm very proud of all of them because they've done an absolutely stellar bit of work there. And you're going to love it if you buy one as well. Anyway, that's it. Enough of this sales nonsense. I mean,
enough.
I think we should just leave them to it, really.
All right. Yeah.
Happy Breakaway Day, everyone.
Happy Breakaway.
Oh, I think Rich has broken away. Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Away Day.
You're back. You're back now. I've caught up with you in the Eagle. That was amazing that you literally broke off.
Yes, bit of a connection problem.
Breakaway Day.
In the middle of the word breakaway. Yeah. It's almost like I planned it.
It is almost like that. Now,
as we know, nothing is planned on the podcast.
Nothing is absolutely. Have you seen that trailer for that film where the moon is blasted into the Earth?
I know I haven't seen the trailer, but I have seen a link to the trailer, and I thought, I'm not going to look at that.
Oh, yeah, see, I mean, it looks all right.
Moonfall or something, is it called?
It sounds like that's about right, yeah.
Something like that.
But you see, I saw it and I thought, well, that's just Space 1999 in reverse. So I typed in as the tweet on the retweet, ECAPS:9991.
Okay.
Or 9991 whatever I did. I was Space 1999 in reverse.
Whatever it was very clever.
Which I thought was really clever and really hilarious, and I'm just nobody thought it was funny. So
no one even responded.
Well, a couple of people responded. Somebody said, old show throwing shade on this new film, which I wasn't really. Right. I just thought it was funny. But So I was thinking, what other show can you think of that would work in reverse?
Oh, what? Really?
Any of them?
What?
The opposite?
OFU?
No,
how would OFU work?
No, don't get rude, all right?
What would the plot be? No.
Well, OFU. No. I mean, I was thinking like Thunderbirds, but it's the reverse. So rather than a rescue team who try and fix everything, it's a nefarious team who go and break things.
It's a team of saboteurs.
Exactly.
Yes, I like
that's the sort of thing I'm thinking. Or I guess with Shadow, is it a team of people who are tempting aliens to the planet in order to steal people's organs because they're just nasty.
Or are the aliens coming to put the organs back?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, great. The alien organ
Shadow
replacement service. Or Space Precinct, where they fly criminals to Altor to, start a new human crime wave.
Yes,
potentially, or something like that.
It.
Or alien cops from Precinct 88 going to New York.
Yeah, now that would work, wouldn't it?
Wasn't there a show like that already?
Alien Nation, I think you're talking
Alien Nation is what I'm thinking
that's
about,
right.
yeah.
But it would have been nice to see the other side of the, what do we call it, program?
Coin?
Yeah, the coin.
Yeah. Anyway, look, Podsterons, if you've got any ideas for a nice reverse Gerry Anderson show,
I like that.
Do drop us a line to SACDOP at jerryanderson.com. That's podcast backwards. No, just do it to podcast@jerryanderson.com.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to hearing your reverse Anderson suggestions.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Or the Nosrednar E-Reg podcast.
Here we go.
Okay, it's enough now. All right. I'll leave you to it. Right.
That's it from me, Dracius Image.
And me, Nosrednar Image. Oh, ridiculous. Okay, let's just go. We've overdone it now. Bye, Podsterons. Bye, Dickie. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.